Dave Durante here with PowerMonkeyFitness with some tips on how to make your handstand as good as it can be. One of the most important things that we want to be thinking about when we're teaching handstands, when we're learning handstands, when we're teaching you these how to get inverted, is to build confidence. When we're training handstands, most people's tendency is to use the wall. They'll kick up to the wall, they'll know that there's a guide there to make sure that they don't fall on their head. But what ends up happening is when you start to move away from the wall, that guide isn't there. So what we're trying to do with this particular drill is build a pattern to the ground that's consistent and repeatable. The first part is starting with the arms directly up over the head and creating a lunge position. It can be with the right, it can be with the left, it doesn't really matter to me, but it's a way for you to be able to go down to the ground with consistency. That lunge leg is what's going to support the weight as you go down towards the ground. The opposing leg will be your kick leg, the one that's generating the speed off the ground. Now with this first variation, what we're going to try to do is just build the pattern to the ground, a couple inches off the ground, nothing too aggressive, and then stand back up to that same starting position with your feet together. And we're going to repeat this action over and over again so we know how to go to the ground with comfort, with confidence, but also making sure position stays intact. Our version 2 of this kick-up drill is just a little bit more aggressive. Everything else basically stay the same, but what I want you to think about doing is just kicking up a little bit more aggressively. The legs can stay separated at first. That leg coming off the ground, your kick leg can be a little more aggressive. The leg that was the lunge leg can stay closer towards the ground. But over time, you can start getting more and more aggressive, getting one leg closer to vertical. Now the key here is twofold. One, you're staying short of vertical no matter what. I don't want you to hit handstand with this portion. Make sure you're staying short of vertical, and then objective number 2 is always staying in a hollow position, meaning not allowing those heels to come over the top. If your heels are passing your shoulders and passing your head, it means you're in a significant arch position, which is normally happening if you're only training handstands where you're kicking up against the wall because you're searching for the wall with those heels. If that's happening, you're really creating a poor position for your handstand. So objective 1, make sure you're staying low and building up slowly, and objective 2, making sure you're staying in that hollow position and not allowing those heels to drift over the head. Another way to be thinking about getting into that inverted position is actually starting in a tuck position. I call this weight on hands, all right? So what you're going to do is start in a position on all fours. Hands down on the ground, feet down on the ground. You can even start with your knees there to position your hands accordingly. Now what I want to see in this position is 1, making sure you're staying in a tight tuck, not opening up the hips, not straightening the knees. In fact, I don't want you to even be thinking about getting into inverted position. We're going to be thinking about creating a circular or a rainbow shape here, trying to go from those feet, creating some weight on top of your hands, and then pushing back to your starting position on your feet. Repeating that action more and more until your hips are more on top of those shoulders, more on top of those hands, and over time you'll start to feel a little bit more stacked, a little bit more of that stability coming through your fingertips. At first, it's just about creating good patterns, less about stability. Over time, you can start getting a little bit more stability in place. So don't worry about it at first. Think more about just creating a good pattern. So with this next exercise, what we're really trying to incorporate is an understanding. If we can do things on the ground, then it'll help us reinforce what we want to be doing inverted. All right? Sometimes people have a tendency to skip that step. So the first part of the drill is going to be what we call a body tightener. You're going to be laying down on the ground on your stomach. Hands are going to be pressed into the box to give you some reinforcement in terms of where those hands need to be positioned. You're going to be thinking about elongating your body as much as possible and thinking about what the lower half is doing. Are my heels together? Are my feet laying flat down on the ground? And most importantly, what are my hips doing? I want you to be thinking about getting that pelvic tilt turned under, getting into that hollow body. You're going to hold this position, and from there, you'll slowly do a wall walk up into an angled wall hold, ideally trying to find a 45-degree angle. But what we're looking for is the exact same alignment that we had laying down on the ground in that 45-degree position. One of the things that really helps with trying to get that alignment is letting your feet drift up the wall as high as you possibly can to create more of length. You want to be thinking like your body is a piece of taffy being pulled to its extreme point. All right, from there, once you find that position, then you'll slowly walk the hands closer and closer to the wall, as close as you can get them, and create that same position that you were doing horizontally, but doing it vertically. Drive those toes up through the ceiling, push those hands down through the ground, make your body as long as flat as possible. Take horizontal into your angle, into your full vertical, and see if you can make them all look the same. All right, the next is going to be a box rock. All right, in this particular drill, we're going to use the box as a tool to be able to understand how to open up our shoulders beyond 180 degrees. All right, the tool of the box can go a long way into eventually being able to apply this into your handstand. Hands will go down on the ground, knees or feet. I actually prefer to have your knees because it gives you a better leverage point. Have your knees, if you feel like your knees are a little bit uncomfortable on the hard box, put an ab mat down, put something soft for your knees to be able to handle the position. But what we're trying to do here is first let the shoulders rock in front of the hands, And then really what we're trying to achieve is a position where the shoulders are driving back towards the box, opening up those armpits back towards the box, trying to create open action through your upper back, through that T-spine, as opposed to it happening through your lower back. If you feel like this is predominantly happening in your lower back, make the range a little more compact, make sure you're focusing on upper back when you're doing this, and work within a range where you can maintain control. The handstand rock is a level up from our box rock, all right? Something you might have done before. This is a way to increase the level once you're actually capable of putting these things in place in the inverted position. The starting point should be fairly close to the wall. Stomach to wall, don't start too far away. In fact, just an inch or two difference makes a significant difference in terms of how difficult the movement is. Hands fairly close. Objective 1, let the shoulders drift slightly in front of the hands as a starting point. And then we're going to bring the whole body directed through the torso back to the wall, laying as flat as possible. That's going to be our hold point. You should be able to pull yourself in and out of those positions with ease. It's going to be challenging in terms of the amount of range that you're going to build, but you shouldn't feel like you're flopping in and out of the positions or pulling with any speed or momentum. It should be done slowly and with control. Over time, you'll build the distance into something that's a little bit more challenging, but always within a position where you can keep the body completely flat up against the wall. At its end point, it can get fairly extreme with those hands really far away. Do not expect to be able to get to this point right now. It'll take some time to get there, but it does have some application to some higher level movements within your handstand.